Today we're going to find out what happens when one of the top work boot companies makes a minimalist white sneaker. This video is sponsored by Ariat, and they've got a couple really good deals going on. The first one, you can get 15% off your first order, including off the Jack shoes, if you sign up for their email list, which I'll put in the description. The second one is you can get 20% off any of their sell items with the code TREATME, and I'll put that in the description as well. And now let's get back to the shoes. So the previous Ariat 224 video we did was the Bison boot, the Highlands, and I was really impressed by this boot because a lot of times when a company has a more casual line, their quality drops significantly. But with these, after we cut them in half, we saw that they're super high quality and really impressive boots. So when I saw that they made a white sneaker, it got me really interested to see what a work boot company can do for a minimalist white sneaker, and it just lined up perfectly for the white sneaker series. And the thing that maybe intrigued me the most was the outsole. So this is a Vibram outsole, and this is interesting because all the other companies, Koio, Oliver Cabells, and Common Projects all use a Margom outsole. And they use it because it's a super comfortable outsole, it's fairly long lasting, and it's just kind of the industry standard for a high-end cup sole for this style. And Vibram, on the other hand, they're mostly known for their work boot outsoles. They're known for their durability and their comfort and their quality of soles. So I'm really interested to see kind of how they compare to the Margom and maybe which one's better and compare and contrast them. So we're gonna be doing that in this video as well. So now let's get to the actual information on the shoes. So the brand is Ariat 224, the model is Jack, the color is white. They also have black and kind of a lighter brown, tannish color. I also got a pair of black for me. They retail for $198 online before the discount, and they're made in China. Now let's talk about some of the details I noticed before we cut them in half. So the first thing that I thought was really interesting was that they roll all the edges on the leather. So on the Common Projects, it's just a raw edge. On the Koios, it was the painted edge. And on these, they spend the time to roll them. Gives it a little more finished look, more preference than anything. The next thing I noticed was that the leather, it's kind of an off-white color, kind of a slight cream tint to it compared to like the Common Projects and all the other shoes that have, it's really, really white, and it almost has like a little hint of blue to it. It's so white. This is a lot more of a natural leather. It's not nearly as finished, and I'll do a close-up shot so you can see how much more open these pores are and how much more character there is in it compared to the Common Projects that has a lot more finish on top. The pores are more filled in with pigment and that top layer of paint, basically. One's not necessarily better than the other. The more natural leather, like in the Jacks, it's gonna age a little bit better. It's not gonna flake off as much when you start to get the creases near your toe, but it's not gonna be as easy to clean, because if you get oil and stuff on there, it's gonna seep into the pores. This leather is also slightly tumbled, so it's not quite as hard and firm as some of the other leathers we've looked at. That just makes it a little bit softer and easier to break in. And it's a chrome tan leather, it's a full grain leather, and I don't really know the thickness yet, so we'll have to see when we get it cut in half. The next thing I noticed was this cup sole is stitched and glued along the sidewall. So unlike the Italian brands that don't have any glue along the sidewall, this does have the glue. That helps keep it more water resistant, but it makes it harder to resole without damaging the leather on the upper. So that's kind of my preliminary stuff. Now let's get cutting them in half. I definitely should have cut that on the bandsaw, but let's see what's inside. Interesting. So let's go through the layers, starting with the outsole, working our way up. We've got the Vibram outsole, then a layer of foam that fills in that gap left from the upper curling underneath. Then a layer of compressed cardboard in the heel that gives you that platform to press down on the cells inside the heel equally to make it more comfortable. Then it goes a layer of canvas, and then a felted material, and then the removable insert, which is 2 layers of foam with the lining leather on top. And then the counter is a fiberboard counter with a flesh out suede counter cover. Then the lining and the upper, we'll have to tear the guts of it out and kind of take some measurements on that. So next step, let's rip the rest of these guts out of this so we can get some measurements and really compare the outsoles. So what do you get when a work boot company makes a sneaker? An impossible to tear apart sneaker. This thing kicked my butt. If you remember all the other sneakers, they're fairly easy to tear the sole from the upper. This one was really, really hard. I had to get the channel locks out. So that was really impressive. I don't know if that directly translates to the longevity of the shoe, but it definitely is a good indicator that this is built really well, that it's cemented really well, and the stitching is really strong. Now that we've got this all kind of torn apart, so we've got the lining leather, which is, let me get my caliper, about 1 millimeter. The upper leather is about 1.5 millimeters. And there's an extra layer of canvas on the inside that's in between the outer and the liner layer. So really beefy. Now let's compare the Margom cupsole to the Vibram cupsole, starting with the thickness in the heel. So the overall thickness of the Margom is about 14 millimeters. The Vibram is 14 millimeters. And they both have a very similar structure inside of the heel. They're both square cells. They give you a little extra cushioning while you're walking. And then we go to the ball of the foot. The Margom doesn't have any ribbing. The Vibram has some kind of crosshatch chevron wave patterns on the inside. The thickness of the Vibram at the ball of your foot is about 4 to 4.5 millimeters. The Margom is about the same, 4.5 millimeters. The sidewall here, the Margom is a little bit thinner. Like the Vibram's got a little bit more beef to it. It's hard to get an exact measurement because it varies so much, but just looking at it visually at the cross sections, you can tell the Vibram's a little bit thicker. Now if we take a measurement, a durometer measurement, Margom is about 15, 16. The Vibram is about 16 to 18. So the Vibram's a little bit harder, not quite as much squish to it. And just feeling the two of them, the Margom has more of a kind of like a soft eraser feel versus the Vibram has more of a rubber feel to it, kind of like a typical outsole that I don't really know how to describe it. The Margom just has a really unique feel to it. It just feels a little bit more malleable. So overall, they're really similar. I think the Vibram is probably gonna last a little bit longer. The Margom might be a little bit more comfortable, slightly, but it might wear out a little bit faster. But they're basically the same, which really surprised me. I thought there'd be a little more difference between the two. Overall, for the shoe, you know, this shoe is really hard to tear apart, and it's built similarly to the other shoes we've seen. It didn't have that layer of fiberboard that's gonna break into your foot as much. It had the felted layer that's gonna break in a little bit faster. The leather seems to be pretty decent quality. It's a more natural leather, so if you like a shoe that's gonna look more worn in and develop a patina over time rather than looking newer for longer, this is a good leather for that. And this shoe was literally just as hard to tear apart as some of the boots that we torn apart. And that's probably the biggest takeaway that I took away from this video, was how hard it was to tear apart. You know, it was really well cemented together. Oh, I don't know if you guys have seen these yet, but you probably have in all the ads everywhere. These are those indestructible shoes that people are always stomping on nails and running their toes over in the ads you see on Instagram. I bought a pair, and this video will be out Wednesday. I'm really interested to see what's going on inside of these. So that wraps up the Jack shoes by Ariat 224. Let me know what you guys thought. How do they stack up to the competition? Did I miss anything important here? I forgot to mention that there wasn't a shank in here. I did forget that. But I'm still kind of not sure if a shoe needs a shank. The jury's still out, in my opinion, on that. And don't forget that you can get 15% off of these and any of the other products they offer by signing up for their email list via the link in the description. And on their on-sale items, you can get 20% off with the code TREATME. So thanks for everything you guys do. See ya.